Good evening, gearheads. Welcome to your Sunday night with Speed City. Formula One is on summer break. IndyCar is off. WEC and IMSA sports cars are off too, but we have tons to talk about. Some very interesting Formula One news. WEC coming here to Austin in just 3 weeks. And later in the show, our guest tonight is Corvette factory racing driver Charlie Eastwood.
And we have,
Awesome. He's a great guy. And
yeah.
I mean,
all those white guys are really interesting to talk to.
I know, and a Corvette factory driver, man, that's a heck of a title. That's John Masco, that's Jonathan Green, and we got lots to talk about. I'm going to start with some Formula One stuff tonight, Greeny. I guess the biggest news, Liberty Media confirms that there is an antitrust investigation by the Department of Justice going on.
Yes, exactly. I don't know how this sits with Maffei or
Greg Maffei, the CEO.
I can't see this helping Andretti's cause at all.
I don't either. And I think, honestly, it's just the politicians got heard about this and were like, this is America, and you're not going to do that to our beloved Mario Andretti. And I've been there.
You know what I'm going to say.
I've been there, and I've been that same, but that's probably what happened here. And, Mario said that we didn't ask for this help, but, Mario's he's a pretty amazing figure here in the States. So I think that's what's happened. But just to follow up here, it says, Liberty Media told investors at its regular investor meeting that it has received notifications from the Department of Justice Antitrust Division that an investigation has been opened with respect to Formula One's conduct concerning the application by Andretti Formula Racing to enter the FIA Formula One World Championship. So
the biggest thing to me, and this is me 10,000 meter rule, looking down, is why on earth does it stipulate that there are 13 potential positions? Then, and even if you never take that up, why take tenders?
Well, remember when this got written. That's the key. This got written way back in 2018, probably, or 19, is when it was probably all drafted up.
But they took tenders. People actually,
I know, and
put applications in.
But remember, the valuations of these now Formula One franchises that are teams, it just kind of evolved between 2020 and 2023, and then everybody realized, holy stuff,
right?
We've got $1 billion franchise here,
yeah,
and so we can't just hand these out as easily as we thought we were going to. I mean, how about it wasn't? It was just a brief blink in history ago when we were fighting to keep teams in Formula One.
That's the irony, is I guess. Yeah. And so what I'm getting at is that they're hoisted by their own petard. Because
damn petard.
That petard,
all the hoisting going on.
A lot of hoisting going on with that petard.
Brilliant!
Yes, because, they should never have given the tenders. They should never have said, okay, who wants to be in Formula One? And High Tech said, yes, please. And Saudi said, yes, please. And Pollock said, yes, please. And Andretti said, yes, please. And they said, no, all of you are useless. But Andretti, and this was all about, do you remember you've got to be environmentally conscious and all this sort of stuff. And you've got to add value. But in other words, they were almost serious about it. And in fact, Andretti got through and Formula One accepted their bid. But then Formula One management didn't.
Yeah, exactly. The FIA said yes. Formula One. Well, remember, Medlin always likes to point out when he's on the show, and he says, look, they didn't say an absolute no. They said, come back in a couple of years. And, and first of all, they said, we thank you for the amazing work that you've done bringing Cadillac into the mix. But they did say,
they try to, in the middle of the deal, they try to steal Cadillac.
Yeah, that's true. So anyway, that was probably the biggest headline, and a couple other quotes from Racer.com. And they said that Greg Maffei, president and CEO of Liberty Media, said, we intend to fully cooperate with that investigation, including any related requests for information, he said. And they said, we believe our determination on that, or F1's determination, was in compliance with all applicable U.S. antitrust laws. Okay. And we've detailed the rationale for this decision vis-a-vis Andretti in prior statements.
All right. Good.
So, honestly, I don't want to spend a ton of time on this because right now, I hate this phrase, but it is what it is, and there's nothing we can do about it. There were those deadlines. Remember when this first came out? They said, the DOJ said to Liberty, said, give us these documents by these deadlines, and that was long ago. So hopefully they have those, working through it. So let's just see what happens. Look, I want Andretti in Formula One as much as anybody, but let's just see what happens here. So
The story I'm following in Formula One quite closely because he's a mate is Liam Lawson. And I followed this literally since he got signed. I was there when he signed the Red Bull contract at 18 on his birthday, 11th of February.
I know, yeah.
Having just won the Grand Prix in the series. But it's getting down to crunch time because what's interesting, and there is evidence now, Marco has admitted it, that Lawson has an out, if you will, is if they don't use him by 25, and in fact that comes into fruition in September. So that's why Marco has said we will let you know about Lawson's future in September.
Yeah.
So okay, it's now the summer holidays, and so we'll know by pretty much the forthcoming sort of Monza or whatever. But the truth is, they've got to make a decision because Liam Lawson is then an open, he's open. What do you call it in the NFL? A free agent. Yeah. So he can then go to another team, and I've been reading up today. There's a possibility that Audi could whip him.
I did see that. That's another rumor. Yep.
But he's free to go then. And Marco then was starting to talk about Hadjar coming on board. He's another Red Bull driver from F2. And he's had a
he's
test.
leading the championship, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, he is. And he's won 4 races. And so, but again, where's he going to go? So it
I know,
would be
he's
a case
gotten
of
amazingly little coverage. All these people, other F2 drivers are getting all this discussion. He's up there going, hey, guys, I'm up here at the top of the standings. And
Drogovic did the same.
Yeah.
It is funny. Ollie Bergman really not having a sense, Antonelli and Bergman not having a sensational season.
Yeah, exactly. But they're the ones getting contracts and getting all the attention. And
yeah, it's a funny old game.
Yeah. So I mean, look, you have you're a mate of Lawson's, but he's but he's also proven he came in when he jumped into Formula One to fill in for Ricciardo. He looked pretty amazing.
And if you want to sum it up, forget the fact that I know him or whatever. It's a simple equation. Perez not performing as well as he wants to, but has been given literally his 9th life as a cat. And what Marco actually did admit was that stability of not changing anything now, bringing Ricciardo in, doing anything like that, bringing Lawson in, stability is going to win in the Constructors' Championship. And while it's not good enough, I know it's not good enough.
Excuse me?
I know. Spa, he was on the front row and finished 8th. That's not a good equation. So that's one. That's settled. Ricciardo isn't good enough to replace Perez right now on current form. Tsunoda's better than him.
How do we know? We got to put Ricciardo in that car.
Because Tsunoda's kicking him.
I'm saying we got to
in that car.
In that. I mean, you're probably right, but like we've said last week or whatever, I don't know why they're not going to look at Tsunoda or whatever because of his temperament or whatever, but I just don't know if Ricciardo could he? If you put him in the car, if you put him in Checo's car, is he going to be better than Checo? That's really all that matters. If he can just scrape a few points. Do you know? I mean, everybody talks about Logan Sargent, how he's probably the lowest ranked driver among any ranking, right? But he has a better record against his teammate than Max Verstappen, because Verstappen versus Checo is 14-0.
Yeah.
Logan Sargent's only 13-0.
Well, that graphic I used last week of what they've scored in the last 8 races, it was something like Verstappen was 148 and Perez was 48.
I know. I just don't get. I don't know all these justifications to keep Checo, and I don't know. Maybe it's that they've seen something. There was Lawson just did a test.
Yes, he did.
And they don't talk about
it. Was
the
a
results.
filming day. It was a filming day, and so was Ricciardo there.
Filming day, right? So they can put him in a car and see how he does. We don't know the results of that.
Yeah.
And so my point is that we don't know what's going on. Maybe nobody is impressing them enough to take Checo out. Or Checo, doesn't he still bring the Carlos Slim money? I'm assuming.
Yeah, but they don't need. It's not like Red Bull need money.
I mean, $10 million a year, or whatever it used to be.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I'll make a prediction. I reckon that Ricciardo is going to get the poke, and Lawson will be announced for next year. Ricciardo will stay in the car.
Wow.
And
we'll stay at Decarb
for the rest of the season.
Yep.
Hadjar will become the new test and reserve driver, and Lawson will get put in with his mate. Remember, him and Yuki were mates back when. They shared a flat together at Milton Keynes.
Yep.
All the rest of it. And they raced against each other in the lower formula. So.
Wait, and so you're saying next year is Tsunoda and Lawson at VCarb.
Yep.
And then Red Bull sticks with Checo, just keeps going with Checo. I mean,
Well, that's why they say
just have
Audi.
it's so hard to believe.
I know, and actually, yeah. I don't believe that
When
Perez
they
will
lose the
stay, but I don't know
constructors' championship,
Yeah, I
that's-
don't think they'll replace him with Ricciardo, honestly. And
Yeah.
what I read about Audi making that pick is that everybody's now waiting for Red Bull to decide what they're going to do next year.
Yeah.
I guess in a way of a driver market, Red Bull have played a good card there because they hold the key.
Yeah.
How much harm can he do? You know.
Yeah.
I mean, he's not slow. I mean, you don't qualify on the front row at Spa unless you know you're doing.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, but anyway, it's just fascinating to me what's going on with Checo and them right now. So, I saw a really cool story about Haas F1 making more investment in the team.
Yes.
They're looking to grow the team by what, 10%, something like that?
Good.
And high, but 10% staff size, which is a pretty good chunk because what do they have, like 200 or 300 people? So they're talking about, this is on motorsport.com. Actually, it's a couple places, but I was just reading it from motorsport.com. I didn't see it on Racer. I like to go to Racer for Chris's sake, but yeah, 10%. And the interesting thing is that this was an interview with Io Komatsu, team principal. And he was saying, we need to convince the owner that what we're doing is working. And clearly this year is working. They're way ahead of where they were at this point last year.
Oh,
And they finished dead last year, which is the reason Gunther Steiner was out. But anyway, I just thought that was good that they're going to add a bunch of staff. And I mean, this is a really interesting place where Haas is, isn't it? It feels like that all of the turmoil is behind us, and they're one of the established teams now, right? It doesn't feel like they're obviously not a top team, but they're one of the established teams, and they don't fear for their life of their existence every single year right now is what it feels like. Because you heard Ocon talking about coming here, and there's so much great going on here, and that was pretty fresh off the back-to-back P6s that Hulkenberg had. But it just feels like Haas has this stability is the word that I'm striving for.
Yeah. And I hate to sort of sound ironic, but isn't that exactly what Gunter was asking for? Investment in the team, because no wonder you last when you don't invest. And he pointed to Alpine, and he pointed to Aston Martin, and he pointed to all the other teams.
It's true, and I absolutely love Gunther, but you have to say to him, give me something I can grasp onto instead of last place. Well, and Io did that. And you know what? Gene may have said you're right, but I know that the rumors always were that Gunther was asking, and I don't know this, and I'm saying this because I've talked a lot to Gunther face to face, but the rumors were that he was trying to get a piece of the ownership, right? And maybe Gene was like, I'm not giving you a piece of the ownership. I put up all my tens of millions, if not hundreds of millions of dollars. I'm not giving any of it away. And who knows, he may have just reacted and said, Gunther, you're out. And he knew that he needed more investment. Io's here and had a little success. And and then Gene says,
all right, yeah.
I'm Gunther, not Gene. And then Gene says, here's the money. Go with it. Let's do this. Sound reasonable?
It does. And we've touched on this in the past. I think a sort of Gunter's extrovert nature and appeal to the media, Netflix, and so on, probably didn't work with an introvert like Gene Haas, who doesn't say much, doesn't like to talk to the media. They were opposites in that respect, and that might have jarred too on him.
All right, we've blasted through the first segment. Let's take a quick break. We got lots more. We got fun stuff to talk about, and later in the show, Corvette driver Charlie Eastwood. We got more IndyCar stories, WEC stories.
Do you think he knows Charlie Big Mike?
Yeah, maybe so. All right, back after these messages. All right, we're still live on YouTube. Let's see if any boys and girls are there.
Kevin Kelly.
Kevin Kelly, Mike Bowles, only ones jumping in on the chat. And Mike Bowles says, let's talk AN. What AN? What you talking about, Willis?
What you talking about, Mike?
But let's see what else we're going to talk about coming up. We got a bunch of stories in here, Greenie, so...
Yeah, we've got some good stories. I still think you saw the headline, is Red Bull falling apart? And I have to say, they've lost several of their
Well,
their major generals in the last few weeks. By the way, the question mark I've been asking for weeks now is what happened to the young lady.
Well, that's right. That was the other major story I put in there.
Yep, and
So we'll jump on that.
he has been, basically it's been, well, it hasn't been resolved, but her appeal dismissed.
Noted and dismissed.
Noted. Yeah.
Yeah. I want to talk about Alexander Rossi he's coming back. We can talk a little bit about Hunkos Hollinger IndyCar racing team. A little bit about that.
Interesting times there. It's been a rocky road for them.
I know. Here we go. Coming back.
Hi, this is Karun Chandok, and you're listening to Speed City.
Welcome back to the fastest hour in radio, Speed City.
All right. Go ahead, Greeny.
Yeah, shameless plug. Lights to flag, Karun Chandok on his whirlwind F1 experience, flying the flag for India and becoming a TV star. It's on the F1.com. Just it's Karun bringing us back. I thought I'd give him a plug.
Okay.
Old mate of mine.
What is it? It's a book?
No. I don't even know, but I just saw the headline. It's the #1 headline. I think it's just an to read sign. Yeah.
Oh, it's an insider story.
It's an unlocked story.
Yeah, you have to unlock. And by the way, I think you can do those for free on F1.com.
Okay.
I think if you want F1 TV and stuff, you have to pay. But I think just give them your email address and you
met him when he was 9, and he was wearing a Kevin Schwantz shirt.
Well, I know that.
Isn't that funny?
I know that when he came to the booth that one year and you were on the mics, he was like a kid standing outside the booth waiting for you to get off the mics. And when you got off, he rushed in and just
gave me a big old bear hug. Yeah.
Oh no! And he was so excited to talk to you.
Well, I helped him a lot when he was a kid. I worked quite hard to try to give him some profile. And he was the first guy. I went to Monaco with him when he was in F3, and it was fun.
He's brilliant.
He's a lovely guy.
He's a lovely guy, but he's really good at his job.
Well, his dad was also heavily involved. In fact, that's how I met him. Is that his dad was the head of the FIA in India. So
cool.
He would bring me out to cover Formula 3 in Madras, stayed at their house and everything.
Oh, Mike Bowles said, and hello, Adrian Newey. I should have known that.
Oh, right, yes. Sorry, Mike, we're asleep today.
I know, we must be. But, all right, so the other big story that we haven't talked about, it was kind of, big headline kind of story, but I don't want to spend hardly any time. It's just the Horner story and how the appeal has been dismissed. And essentially it says, an appeal against an investigation that has cleared Red Bull Racing team principal Christian Horner's wrongdoing has been dismissed. So the investigation following accusation by a female employee that Horner had engaged in coercive behavior and sexual harassment, that prompted RBR, Red Bull Racing's parent company, Red Bull GmbH, to launch an internal investigation by an independent lawyer that ultimately cleared him, and the employee appealed that finding, but according to Red Bull, an independent lawyer has dismissed that appeal. So if you didn't follow all that, I'm sorry if I didn't explain that great, but bottom line is it looks like the story's going away.
Yeah, and the female in question has been not working at Red Bull, but has been on full pay since this all came up. It's a weird one. I mean, we had the text come out.
That was probably going to stop then after this.
Yes, of course. I do feel that at the end of the day, somebody's career has, frankly, been ruined. In Formula One, at least. And I'll never know the truth. I don't know what I think about the sex texts, as it were. And I also find it very dubious that it was everybody in Formula One.
They got that email.
And we don't have we work in Formula One and we don't have all those emails from all those team bosses and all those people in the FIA. And everybody received those texts. And I'm like, so it was somebody, it was a hit job somewhere.
Yeah, and no one will ever know who was at fault. All right, so what was the other one you wanted to talk, Greeny? We've got, the wonders, speaking of Red Bull, if the team is falling apart. You like that story.
Yeah, well, because since that all rolled up, there was talk of Verstappen leaving. The sort of dirty laundry, which includes Horner was the force behind Ricciardo coming back. I don't think Helmut Marko was keen on that into RB. And what's the other? Well, Wheatley.
Adrian Newey, like Mike said.
Yes, exactly. But several of the top guys at Red Bull have now gone. And, you have to ask the question, do they have the strength that has made them so brilliant over the last few years, heading into what will be a tricky new era coming in the next year or so?
Yeah, well, we shall see. And by the way, speaking of Adrian Newey, did you see? I mean, have you heard more about the new supercar that he's producing? It's called the RB17.
Yes, yeah.
Which is weird, right? You think, wait a minute, that's how Red Bull names their Formula One cars, right? They've named them by generation, starting in what,
Yeah.
05? So that it's always been, the generations preceded by RB, like RB1, RB. So they got to the pandemic and they got to RB16, and then they got to RB16B. I guess it was just an evolution.
So they missed out the 17.
And then they went to 18. And so this car is going to be called the RB17.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, and it is the technology. If you're on YouTube and you follow Jason at Engineering Explained, it's a fantastic engineering YouTube channel. He's funny and entertaining, and he's famous for his whiteboard equations, which sometimes you have to either back them up about 4 times to follow him because he is actual engineer and he's really smart. But he has a great video on this. He talks about the car is faster than an F1 car, that it has more downforce than an F1 car. More downforce than an F1 car.
What's its horsepower then?
Its horsepower is like 1,200 because it's 1,000 internal combustion, 200 electric, and it weighs slightly more, like 1,900 pounds. So weighs slightly more than an F1 car, has way more horsepower, has way more downforce. And you're thinking, what? The key to this? It's not for the road. It's a track car.
But it comes with 23 mechanics to change the tires in less than 3 seconds.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it's currently they're saying it's not going to be a road car. But the little tidbit from Jason's video was that the downforce, they say, is a maximum of 1,700 pounds of downforce, which coincides with the maximum downforce of the proper size road tires, which makes me think that this may be a road car one of these days.
One of these days, yeah.
But anyway, I thought that was a really, if you got some time, go watch that. It's not like 15-minute videos. It's really cool.
Talking of supercars, Valkyrie coming online, the Aston Martin.
I know, yeah.
Car.
Well, which is funny. Those two are kind of intertwined.
Slightly, aren't they? Yeah.
Yeah, because Newey was part of that before. Before Aston Martin. Because remember when Aston Martin was part of Red Bull?
That's right.
That's when all of this came together. And now that Aston Martin is a competitor, Newey was like, well, wait a minute. What happened to my supercar project? I still want that. So that's where the RB17 comes in. So anyway, it's kind of crazy. So yeah. We got time for one more story before we talk to our guest.
Wait.
I said Alexander Rossi. Good to see him clear.
Hang on. One of our fans one of our listeners is having food on the grill.
Sunday,
didn't invite us.
Sunday grilling. Paul Villum says thanks for the show. Yeah, thank you, Paul, and thanks for the like request there. But the other story I just wanted to mention: Alexander Rossi, longtime, early second guest ever on Speed City.
Yep.
He broke
Who was
his thumb.
the first?
Connor Daly.
Brilliant.
Or do I have that backwards? I'm pretty
certainly
sure.
In person, he was one of the first.
Those were the first 2 guests on our show in 2012. It was Connor Daly and Alexander Rossi. I just can't remember which ones.
That's funny.
Isn't that funny?
And at the time, Connor had just come out of GP2.
Yeah.
So.
Yep. Anyway, he broke his thumb, and he's going to be back in the car.
It was really one of those innocuous kind of accidents.
I know.
He just touched the barriers, and that was it.
Yeah. Well, actually, I was thinking, I'm trying to remember if I'm confusing that one. But anyway, he broke his thumb. He's going to be back. And, I didn't realize that this article says his renowned oval prowess. And I didn't realize that he is so good at all. I guess, he won the Indy 500.
Won the 500, yeah. But yeah.
But the point is, how many ovals are coming up? Because we were talking about Juncos, Hollinger Racing. And, he lost a place down to 9th. And now with those ovals coming up, they have high hopes for him to move some positions up to finish out his stint with Arrow McLaren on a high.
Let's talk about Juncos.
Yes, Juncos, Hollinger Racing.
We know the team manager very well.
Yep. We were
the team principal. Dave O'Neill. And they've had a rocky road, not with Grosjean, but with Campanino, the Argentinian.
Yeah.
Canapino, excuse me, the Argentinian touring car multiple champion. And a lot is to be blamed on his fans that have just social media attacked two drivers that he came
didn't
together
have
with.
to, he should, if he just left it alone, it could have been all his fans. But he liked some posts and stuff, and so, and what's crazy about this guy? Let's not forget, he'd never been in IndyCar. He'd never been in open wheel,
And he was actually doing pretty
and he was
good.
doing good, which could have made the story all that much better. But anyway, he's out. That's the bottom line. He is out of IndyCar. Connor Daly's been, and I purposely didn't ask Dave who they were talking about, but obviously Connor Daly did some testing for them.
Yeah, he tested. Yeah,
and so
he's known as an oval expert, so it makes sense.
I think all the motorsport internet when they saw that headline that Canapino was out, they all went, oh, so Connor Daly is probably going to be in line to fill the seat. So all right, well, we got to go to a break, and when we come back, Corvette factory driver Charlie Eastwood back after these messages.
Stand by, Mike.
Kevin Kelly says, I thought Rossi was the first guest. I think that's
you might be right.
I'll have to go back and look in our Amazon S3 archives. But Corvette Mike, dude, we got a Corvette factory driver, and we talk about the new ZR1 even.
I think it's really cool because you threw it at Charlie, and we'll hear it. But
he knew the stats.
Well, he knew the stats, but he also knew the reverence of what it was to be a factory driver and what it meant in the sort of parlance of car love here in the States.
Yeah, it was really, really cool that he got it. I mean, he immediately got it because that's how I introduced him, as you'll hear that. So, let's see. What else? Kevin Kelly. Rossi was the reason I won the tickets in Austin. That's how
right.
I met Kevin Kelly in the first place. I delivered those tickets to him in person.
Service with a smile.
In person. Yeah, I remember, Kevin, I remember the neighborhood because I used to live in that neighborhood where I came and dropped off those tickets. I guess your sister lived there or cousin or somebody.
Yeah, just so you know, Andy, if you win again, you'll have to get entry. Kevin, if you win again, you'll have to get entry to his suite, then get your trunks on to get into his jacuzzi, and then you might get to Massago.
All right, coming back.
Hi, this is Mario Andretti, and this is Speed City.
Welcome back to the fastest hour in radio, Speed City.
Thank you, Mr. Andretti. All right, we did this interview Friday, I believe, Johnny?
Thursday
or Friday this week. And as the reason we did this interview is, first of all, we love to talk to race drivers, but WEC is coming back to COTA, of course, as everybody knows. And so we're trying to talk to as many WEC drivers. And he's also an IMSA driver, by the way, which he'll talk about. But we want to talk to some of the big, iconic American brands like Corvette. And so here's our interview with Charlie Eastwood. All right, gearheads, we're gearing up for the Lone Star Le Mans at Circuit of the Americas, where the World Endurance Championship is coming back to COTA for the first time since 2020. And we are super excited because we have a fantastic race driver. And all the American fans that are going to be rooting for some American brands are going to be really excited to have our next guest, because we have Charlie Eastwood of Corvette Racing. He's a factory Corvette race driver. Charlie, that's got to have a good ring in your ears, doesn't it?
It definitely does. Firstly, thanks for having me on. To be a Corvette factory driver is what a lot of kids dream for, to be honest. And yeah, such a special brand, and actually getting to know the brand way more, obviously, since I've been involved, knew a little bit, and unfortunately got beat by them a lot last year with the crew that they had. But it's class to be part of the brand, and it's good when you're doing like European races and things, and then once you actually go over to America, and especially it's probably going to be the same in Austin, the fan base that Corvette have is mind-blowing. I do IMSA at the minute in LMP2, and every autograph session you're sort of sitting there being like, where is everybody? And then you realize everyone's queued up down at Corvette. The following it has been very surprising, but not surprising as well. So it's a really cool brand to be a part of.
Well, let me just talk about your career, because you've had an amazing career, from a karting champion to racing in the Blancpain Series, and like you said, in IMSA. And I noticed on your wrist a Rolex from winning in the 24 Hours of Le Mans. So you are a fantastic race driver, and but you've been to COTA and you won there the last time you were there back in 2020, didn't you?
I did indeed. Such an amazing track. And actually, but a very difficult one as well. Like when you look at all the different sectors, you get through the high speed sector one, and then it gets super technical, and then it ramps up to high speed again in the last. So, really satisfying track to race that. And yeah, as you mentioned, in 2020, back when it was GTE, I was having a great battle with Ross Gunn in the last stint. We seemed to have a bit of advantage on the tires, and we had a bit of a traffic with LMP2s down the back straight, and he went to defend, and I decided, let's see if I can make it run the outside at the hairpin, and it stuck with maybe 15-20 minutes to go, and we were able to win the event. So yeah, class race to win, of course, and then Austin as a place I absolutely love. So the night after it was pretty good. So yeah, I love going there, and even this year my brothers came to Tokyo last year for my bachelor party, and we said, right, we'll try and do one race a year. And then when I mentioned obviously Austin was on the calendar, I was like, you have to come there to experience it, both the craziness of the time, but also the food and everything. So they're flying out with me in a couple of weeks' time. So hopefully we'll have a good few days.
Well, everybody knows that I'm a big Corvette fan, but Jonathan Green, I know you are excited to have these guys here too.
Yeah, I am, and also Charlie, we're doing a few of these interviews, and obviously the same question to you that we've asked a few other drivers: how exciting is it to be in this era of WEC, coming into COTA, but also after a year that has been so competitive and so exciting with so many manufacturers?
Yeah, it's in endurance racing, it seems like we're in one of these, there always seems to be sort of bubbles, every sort of 10, 15 years. And we're definitely right in the middle of the bubble. Of course, we have now only GT3 and hypercar. But with that, all the manufacturers seem to be going at it so hard, especially with the hypercar side. I think as of next year, I think there's 13 different manufacturers, 12 or 13. And yeah, it's such a spectacle both in GT3 and in hypercar. And actually, you're like a bit of a giddy child sometimes. Like at Le Mans, you're driving down the Mulsanne and you've got 7 or 8 hypercars going flat out past you, 5 different manufacturers, and you sort of sit there. Obviously, we've a little bit more time down the streets than they do. Not a lot, but we have a bit. And yeah, you just have to take it in that, yeah, we're so lucky to be in this bubble that we're in endurance racing, and just do as much of it as we can and take it when it comes. And yeah, it's pretty exciting to be involved in it all.
Well, look, we are excited to have the whole event here, and of course Corvette racing. But one of the things I think that is the most exciting thing about the Lone Star Le Mans and WEC in general, and like you said, IMSA too, but is the fact that when you go there as a fan, yeah, you're going to have Corvette fans, but you're going to have Cadillac fans, Mustang fans. You're going to have, of course, Porsche, Ferrari, Toyota, everybody that people can go and see the car. They drive their Corvette to the track, and then they get to see the GT3 Corvette on track and have somebody to root for instantly. Yeah,
that's the great thing about the GT3. You can actually make a resemblance to the cars. Obviously, the ZR1 came out with the Corvette last week, and I had never seen it before all of the PR stuff came out, and I was like, it literally looks identical to our race car. It has a lot more downforce and everything else, and yeah, the engine in it is obviously ridiculous, but yeah, I don't know how they've produced that, but
a lot more downforce and a lot more horsepower.
A lot more horsepower, yeah. What was it, 1,067? I think.
Yeah, and a mind-blowing number, wasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely mind-blowing. So, yeah, that's where you feel like we're sort of again in this bubble that you know, if you do have a Corvette or you do have another brand, you can follow that, you know, that series. And I feel like since, you know, Formula One's obviously getting so big as well, and then that gets everybody more interested. The amount of my friends that watch Drive to Survive and never really took any interest in anything that I was doing, even though I was in the same, you know, school as them. Now all of a sudden they're asking me what tires I'm going to put on and this and that in the middle of races. So everyone just seems super hyped about it. And as I said, it's amazing to have this amount of buzz, you know, around WEC, and I'm sure it's going to be no different when we get to Austin.
Yeah, and of course, Le Mans. You know, we just watched 24 Hours of Le Mans, and you know that's the granddaddy of them all, right? And you know, I think about when you talk about Drive to Survive, that the people that rising tide lifts all boats kind of thing, like you're saying, but thinking about Le Mans too, and how do you compare the excitement of Le Mans to something like coming to a place like Austin where you haven't been in a while? I mean, I know it's a totally different race, but do people get just as excited?
Yeah, I think at Le Mans, honestly, just everything seems to be on steroids. It's like, as in, everything is just bigger. All the hospitality is bigger. The amount of people are there is bigger. The track is absolutely massive. People are there for twice as long. It is such a good race to be a part of. Like I've obviously done a lot of different endurance races, Spa 24, Daytona and things, but the buzz that comes around Le Mans is crazy. Just the people that have been there for 20 years in a row, you know, it's around the same weekend, same place every year. Where I feel like when you then go to sort of the different tracks as such, you then get a lot more singular brand focus. So the likes of Corvette and Cadillac will be for sure the biggest brand at Austin, and then we're going to go to Fuji, and the likes of a Toyota and a Lexus are going to have a massive following. So where it feels like you get to Le Mans and all the followings of all the brands, they're all there. So yeah, every single race we've had in WEC this year has had a really different dynamic. You know, we're going to different places, Qatar, then back into Europe, and then to Le Mans, and now we're obviously setting off again. So yeah, they've all had a bit of a different dynamic, and we went to Brazil for the first time last time out. What a place that is, and what a track, and the history, and you know, all this stuff you see around Senna and things. So yeah, I'm a very lucky boy to be a part of all of it at the minute.
No question about it. Hey, looking ahead to COTA, we had some testing here recently. Some of the teams here, we've had some repaving. As I said, with Aston Martin, you know the track. But what kind of car suits COTA when it comes to racing WEC?
It all depends. To be honest, the repave is the question mark that everybody has. From my understanding, it's maybe still ongoing as we speak. So a lot of guys that tested there 3-4 weeks ago, they were still on the old tarmac. As we know, in Austin at the minute, it's definitely not cold. And
102 today.
Well, there you go. So controlling that is going to be the biggie. The tire deg on the old surface especially is going to be significant, especially with the first sector. Like when you think that the track surface in, I only really know Celsius, but it's probably going to be over 50 degrees Celsius. So what's that? 120 Fahrenheit?
It'll be warmer than that, I think. But
yeah, even more so. And when you then actually break down, once you go into turn 3, you are leaning on those tires for, you know, 6 or 7 long corners in a row, and they're sort of just screaming at you, wanting a rest. But that just takes so much out of the tire. So I think tire deg is going to be a big point for us in the Corvette. That's great. Like it's got a low center of gravity, really good downforce, and we can roll a lot of minimum speed. So we can manage the tire pretty good, which we did in Brazil, which was also crazy aggressive surface. But on the flip side, if the repave ends up quite often when there's a repave, because there's so much tar and not so much stone, you don't overheat the tire just as much. So there's a lot of unknown going into this race for everyone, both in GT and hypercar. Like I think a lot of the guys that plan to do testing and then have found out that there's now repave aren't too happy because there's a high chance a lot of their sort of data collection is going to be out the window. But I mean, from the driver's side, I've been there before, had a great result the last time. The first time I ever drove a Corvette was in Austin, nearly a year ago now, which was a classic experience. So hot, but amazing. So yeah, I think preparation-wise on the driving side, I think I'm in a pretty good spot.
You know, Charlie, one of the most exciting races I've seen at COTA, and I've seen almost everything that's ever come there, was the World Endurance Championship about 10 years ago. And it was hot, like you were saying, but way back on turn 11, a little thunderstorm hit, just a quick little thing, and surprised everybody. And all the cars came blasting down into turn 11. And about half of them spun off the track and surprised everybody. But back where we were up in the commentary booth, it was still sunny and bright. So Austin can bring up some surprises too, like that.
Yeah, I mean, and when it rains, it seems to pour. So, yeah, we've actually this year had loads. Imola was the same, half wet, half dry. Le Mans was mental. Brazil was the same, spinning halfway through the race. So, I mean, it just makes it super interesting. And I think the thing with WEC, the team as well behind you, they have to be so switched on. You know, it's not like so much in sort of the likes of an IMSA when you get a caution and you sort of just have to tick around until you get that late caution, so then you can be right in the hunt. If you lose time in the very first stint, it's so hard to recoup it in WEC. So the decision making, you know, we're here with TF Sport and I've been with them for years, and as a team they're fantastic. So the more hiccups that there is from the powers to be, we're delighted with, because I know we'll deal with it just as good as anyone else.
Charlie, tell me about TF Sport, because you've been with them for a while.
Yeah, I've been with them my whole endurance career. To be honest, I'd done Porsche Carrera Cup in the UK and had an opportunity to go straight into WEC and Blancpain at the time. So yeah, literally my first race was with TF Sport, and I've probably done about 90% of their races ever since. So when the option came that obviously there was talks that they would move to Corvette, and I was obviously able to do my own thing to move also, I was delighted. You know, the team started as a bit of a one-man band, you know, with Sally Yollick was the main driver there at the time, doing the sort of big international races. And now it's, you know, in the space of 6-7 years, the rate of development within the team, the size of the team, you know, the customers and things that are coming along, I think everyone in the paddock will agree they're up there with one of the best, you know, customer teams, both in LMP2 and in GT. So it's a pleasure to be a part of the team.
Yeah, and speaking of being a part of Corvette, that yellow iconic Corvette with the history behind it,
yeah,
all the history at Le Mans and all kinds of sports car racing, that's got to be something special. I mean, when you see a guy driving a yellow Corvette on the street, you know why he bought that yellow Corvette, because that is an iconic race profile of a car, and you've got to, I mean, you that's a big responsibility in a way too.
It is, yeah, especially when you go over to the States, you can definitely feel a little bit more pressure. But actually at the start of the year, I don't know if you've seen, but our liveries are essentially, one car is yellow, black in the middle and yellow at the back, and the other is the opposite, black, bit of yellow in the middle and black. And when I was chatting to the team and they were chatting about this, I was like, I need to be in the yellow one, or the predominant yellow one. So thankfully got my way in that, because as you said, it's such an iconic brand, and it's like, you know, if you said to any Corvette fan, what colors it's associated with. Of course, the yellow is the big standout. So yeah, I wanted to be driving down the street, and when somebody took a picture, it was the yellow car. So yeah, it's iconic. There's a little bit of pressure with it, but I think with every brand there is also. But to be honest, it's more just an honor to be able to drive the yellow car on some of these crazy races and tracks around the world.
My very first drive in any sports car where I drove it, I was 16 years old, and I had this aunt of mine who, for some reason, decided she drove her yellow Corvette down to Austin, and she came outside and tossed me the keys and said, "You want to take the car into town?" And I was like, I laughed, and she threw me the keys, and I couldn't believe she'd let me. And I drove her yellow. It was about a mid-70s, maybe early 70s Corvette with a stick shift. And I got to take it into town and go show all my friends. And it was a yellow Corvette. And that is burned into my brain like nothing else.
There's no surprise you're still a big fan then. That explains a lot. You were never a BMW, were you?
Oh yeah. Well, it's yeah, that's a memory you can't forget. And I know my parents must have been going, "What are you doing giving the Corvette keys to a 16-year-old?" But I didn't wreck it, and now it's etched in my mind of, I've owned a few Corvettes. And so well, Charlie, this is really exciting to have you and have this coming to Dakota, and we sure appreciate all your time. And of course, you'll be easy to spot, but what's the car number for you in the yellow Corvette?
The car number is 81. So we've two Corvettes, 81 and 82. And I'm in the 81 with the predominantly yellow livery.
Well, Charlie, just a side note, before you go, got to mention that your Formula One accolades as well. You're doing some sim racing, sim testing for Mercedes, right?
Yes, yeah, I've been doing it since 2020 now, so quite a while. But basically, I started a home sim company, and right place, right time, I guess. And basically started at the end of 2019. COVID hit 2020. All the F1 guys want sims, and friendly with George Russell, and he was wanting one. And before you know it, it ended up Mercedes needed a load of home sims, which I was able to provide to them. And I actually went throughout the year, essentially, I think a lot of them thinking that I was a sim builder. And I spoke to James Viles, who's now the team principal at Williams. And I asked him, hey, is there any chance I can get an assessment on the sim? It's a 3-day assessment. They've, tested hundreds of drivers from F3 and F2. And he was like, I was like, you're either going to waste 3 days of everybody's lives, or it might actually work out pretty beneficial. And true enough, end of day 2, I had a contract sitting on the desk in the sim room. Wow. And I got to work on day 3, and I've been there ever since. So yeah, another insane thing to be a part of, and the level of performance in engineering and everything else in between at that level is crazy. So it's it's a pretty cool, another pretty cool thing about my job.
Well, especially as George is going so well as well.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Again, with a lot of these guys, we ended up driving karts together from we were 8, 9-year-olds. So yeah, it was just randomly I was going to get him a sim, and then ended up getting everybody within Mercedes a sim. And now when I'm driving on the sim on a Friday evening in Red Bull Ring, can text him and say, was this good, bad, or indifferent? And just try and do our best to get the best package together to try and go win the races.
Wow, that's cool. I'm glad you brought it up, Jonathan. I didn't realize that. That's pretty cool, Charlie. That's awesome. Hey, one last thing too. You're coming to Austin. You're going to be in the United States. You're going to be in Texas, and you're going to be racing for the factory team. They need to bring at least a Z06 down, or an E-Ray or something for you to drive while you're here in Austin.
Heck yeah.
Funny enough, you're not the first person to mention it. That was most certainly on the order. I was like, I know it's pretty hard to do it anywhere else in the world, but it would be a pretty cool thing if we could put it together. So, I mean, Ryan just put into our group chat asking what day we arrive. So I'm hoping that's what day we can pick up our car, but maybe I'm being a little bit too hopeful.
Well, Charlie, right outside of Coda is the toll road that is the fastest speed limit in the United States. It's an 85-mile-an-hour speed limit right outside of Coda. Sure would be a nice place to drive a Corvette. So you need to get them to make that happen.
Second gear then.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Especially in the new one. I'd say I could do that in first, but
yeah. Well, Charlie Eastwood, thank you very much. We're really excited you're coming, and we'll grab you when you get to Coda.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
What a great guy.
See you soon. Look, good luck.
Yeah, he said that like I always has to have the last question and the final goodbye. Oh my gosh.
Hey, speaking of the WEC event, we have a guest on the line who just dialed in. We've got that same weekend on August 31st, there's another car event. So if you're in town for WEC, and let's bring him on because very excited to have Aaron Bergman from the Golfinity group, and he's the president and CEO. Aaron, welcome to Speed City.
Hey guys, pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me on.
Well, we just had a driver on who's going to be here that same weekend for the giant sports car event out at Coda, the World Endurance Championship. But you guys are having a really cool event that Saturday before the race, right?
That's right. Yeah. So for those who may have never heard of Golfinity, we are the largest indoor golf performance club in the country, and it's 20 state-of-the-art golf simulators. And one thing we've noticed with all of our members at our club is just how many people have an affinity to not only golf but also cars. And so, we've come in collaboration with Austin Supercars as well as Exotics Social Group to put together what I believe is just going to be such a fun event. August 31st at 6 p.m. There's going to be free drinks, first free drink for those who come. And then not only are we going to have our amazing golf simulators, guys, but we're also going to have 2 car simulators. So we're kind of bringing the best of cutting-edge technology for golf and cars together. So we're really looking forward to it. This is kind of a first-of-a-kind event for us. So, it should be a lot of fun.
Well, you guys are right out there at 620, 183, the toll road, 45, where all that comes together right out there, right? Kind of by Lakeline Mall.
Well, I heard you in the last segment just talking about 130, and I was out on 130, got onto 45 from there and scooted over to Golfinity in about, 12 minutes from 130. So, it's easy access on the north side of town. Just a fun place to come. And for those who are listening who can't make it out to the 31st, if you haven't been to our facility, you almost have to see it to believe it. There's nothing like it that's ever been built in the country before. So, and it's right here in our backyard in Austin. So come check us out, and we're always welcoming newcomers.
Well,
That's awesome.
This is really cool. They can go to your website, golfinity.com, and find out more, or where can they find out the information?
So they can go to our website, golfinity.com, if you want to learn just about our facility. But for this event on the 31st, Golf and Gears is what we're calling it. They can go, I would point them to our social media. So go to Instagram at Golfinity, and I think it's right there on our last post. So there'll be a link there. You can sign up. I think we extended VIP signups to Wednesday. So, one click and get your name on the list and come check us out and come have some fun. Bring your car. We'll have some fun cars in the parking lot for people to check out. And, of course, the sims. I have to admit, guys, I have not been in this car sim that we're bringing in. So I have requested, hey, I need that to come in a couple days early.
Yes, you do. And we need the specs. We need the spec of the rig.
I know. Because, look, I know my way around a golf simulator, but a car simulator, that's going to take a little getting used to.
Hey, listen, before you go, I just want to double check. We've got a lot of people on the internet, and Kevin Kelly wrote, wait a minute, did he say free drinks?
First free drink. First drink is free on us. So, that's...
All right, Kelly, you heard it right.
Kelly, that's it. I wasn't making... You can hold me to it. I'm sitting kind of recording to this. Hold me to it.
All right. Well, Aaron Bergman, thanks a lot. We appreciate you coming on, and I'm sure some people will be excited to have something else to do while they're in town for the World Endurance Championship.
Great idea.
Aaron, thanks a lot. Good luck. Thanks for coming on.
Hey, guys, thank you so much. My pleasure.
All right. All right, I think that's all we got time for, Mr. Green. And we got one more free Sunday, as I would call it.
The
Before
internet's just exploded with free drinks.
free drinks. Okay, so all these years we've been trying to promote
We're selling the
ourselves.
wrong thing.
Free drinks. That's all we needed to
Yeah.
give away free drink coupons.
That's it.
All right, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. And next Sunday, we'll be back with more of your Sunday night with Speed City. Thank you very much.
Betrayals.
Bye-bye.